Every family seems to have a favorite family gathering spot. In my case, that's where I heard my very first jazz record. I'm Fred Masey, and this is the Jazz Scene, dedicated to the preservation, promotion, and appreciation of jazz, America's classical music. Our favorite family gathering spot was my Aunt Anna's house. Whether it was Thanksgiving, Christmas, or just because it was Sunday, random family and close family friends came by for a visit, usually an extended one. And somehow, as if by magic, Aunt Anna always managed to produce a huge meal out of thin air. Plenty for everybody, no matter how many there were or who they were, complete with a whole selection of desserts. Now for me, it was always more fun if my older cousin was there. He was like the older brother that I didn't have. I followed Barry around like a puppy, probably drove him crazy, like the little brother that he didn't have. When I was around 12, somewhere between the meatloaf at the kiddie table in the kitchen and the vinyl on the phonograph in the living room, my sort of mentor cousin, who was a worldly 14 at the time, he introduced me to jazz. I'll never forget the first 3 records he played for me. April in Paris by Count Basie, Cherokee by Charlie Barnett, and Intermission Riff, Stan Kenton. Well, that did it. I was hooked for life. While other kids were listening to the Platters and Chubby Checker or Elvis Presley, I was listening to Art Blakey, Maynard Ferguson, and George Shearing. In my teens, I even had a switch under my dashboard that my dates couldn't reach. I could cut out the rock and roll station and only listen to the one that played jazz. A bit extreme, but it made the point. Got me into some pretty heated discussions with the young ladies, I'll tell you that. In the years that followed, I sort of played at organ, noodled around with piano, and traded a musician friend of mine a few years of photographic experience for a batch of baritone sax lessons. But it turned out that my true calling was to talk about music rather than create it. Ironically, throughout a long and I think successful radio career that stretched from New York to Philly and back again, I played just about every kind of music except for jazz. Then I lucked into a part-time gig at a pop rock station not long before retiring from broadcasting. Somehow, I was able to talk them into giving me a Saturday night show from 10 p.m. until midnight. I even got to bring my own music, which was really something special in this age of computers and automation. In fact, I created kind of a place, an atmosphere. I called it the attic. In fact, I said that the rock and roll guys gave me this place in the attic with a big old overstuffed chair. They said, don't come down. You can play your jazz up there. I used to shut all the studio lights off, just for atmosphere, kind of get my head in the right place. And I brought one little reading lamp, the kind of thing you put at the head of the bed, just so I could read my live copy. That and the illumination from the control board was pretty much the only light in the place. Well, I guess it worked because a lot of people believed I was really up in some attic, and they didn't even have one. Whether playing more contemporary tunes or classics that I cut my teeth on, my watchword was always melodic. I don't like excesses of beeps and boops and squeaks and squawks or any other note that, as I call it, is conjugated more than 5 times in a row. Surprisingly, our after-hours jazz show quickly became the most popular program on the station. During the year or so that After Hours plied the airwaves, right up until they sold the station, I had the good fortune to interview the likes of Mercer Ellington, Tony Bennett, Nancy Wilson, Billy Taylor, Illinois Jacquet, George Shearing, Dakota Staten, Joe Pass, many, many more. A whole host of my other lifetime favorites. When Joe Pass came in for an interview, we had kind of a nice sit-down, and when it was all over, he was in the process of cutting a new album, and he said, we've just created a tribute to Fred Astaire, Blues for Fred, and he said, we can't do anything more with Fred, but he said, I'd like to name my new album after your program. Would you mind? I said, heck no, I'd be honored. And that's my little inside story on After Hours, which, by the way, is a terrific album. And I hope for at least a year, it was a pretty good show. Recently, I found several of the old tapes from some of those interviews, and if they'll still play without disintegrating, I hope to include them in some future Jazzcasts right here. For a year, I had a ball, but maybe the most fun of all was introducing some new people to some genuine jazz. Not the watered-down death by saxophone pablum that conveniently appropriated the name back in those days. Today I find myself living in a log home on a country hillside in the northeastern U.S. with an incredible bride, a big brown Labrador, a small spotted mixed breed, and several finned and feathered creatures. And it's true, you don't have to take a goldfish for a walk. Through the years, one of the constants for me has always been jazz and the people who make it. I often wonder who that old coot is looking out at me from the mirror, and just notice that I'm able to distill a large portion of my life down to a matter of just a few minutes. Well, the microphone needed to be dusted off. Records have now become CDs, but, it just feels like it's time to start sharing the music again. In future Jazzcasts, I'll try to cover some history, some biography, offer some interviews, and even opinion. But mostly, I just want to give you the perspective of a dedicated listener, which I am, like you. Just let me know, if you would, what interests you have, what you want to hear. Leave me a comment right here on the Jazz Scene or at the website itself, markofjazz.com. Until the next time we meet, I truly hope you'll enjoy the sights and sounds we'll offer as much as I enjoy providing them. And be sure to remember the pithy advice of Miles Davis. Don't play what's there. Play what's not there.
One more time. Let's try it one more once.